Alright guys, the earthquakes have me a bit worried. As you can see, nowhere on the planet are we getting large earthquakes. I mean, there's nothing above a 5.3. And there hasn't been for the last 24 hours, except of course over here where there's the aftershocks. And having aftershocks as high as 6.3 is pretty significant aftershocks, guys. But there's no pressure being relieved anywhere else, so it's really got me concerned at this point, especially for Alaska and the Aleutian Islands through Russia here, where that 4.9 hit, as well as the West Coast. Central America's really got me concerned, and we see a 4.5 pop in there now. And Chile, South America's got me concerned, and as well as New Zealand, Indonesia, Philippine areas got me concerned, because these are areas that usually react to large earthquakes, and they have, you know, decent sized earthquakes in the upper 5s, low 6s, and they help to relieve the stress after a massive earthquake hits somewhere, and we're just not seeing that this time at all. Now they got that 3.0 here in Hawaii, and it's only a kilometer deep, so I mean, I'm sure people felt that one. Anyways, like I said, heads up guys, especially in the concerned areas, the West Coast United States, Central America, Chile area of South America, New Zealand, Indonesia, as well as Alaska, the Aleutian Islands, all the way to Russia. But heads up around the world, guys, because there's no pressure being relieved except in one spot, right here off of the coast of Canada, where they did the largest geoengineering project ever recorded in history. And that may have something to do with this. But again, guys, this is a pattern I've never seen after a massive size earthquake or mega big earthquake such as that 7.7 that we had. So heads up around the world around with the earthquakes, but especially Alaska, West Coast, Central America, Chile, New Zealand, and Indonesia, Philippine area. Looking at Sandy, you can watch it from the beginning here in the Caribbean Sea. She develops, comes through, kills 41 people, so she's already a killer storm, guys, as she went through Cuba and Bahamas and Jamaica and that whole area. 41 people dead. But it comes up north, falls apart, or it starts to fall apart, but it builds a nor'easter or a winter cyclone completely around it, that shields it and comforts it, and becomes like an incubator for the hurricane itself. So now as it moves forward, you've got, as it heads north and east and then north and now northwest, it's now a hurricane inside of a massive winter cyclone. Now let's talk millibars, because this is going to be important, guys. It is now at 946 millibars. Understand that from North Carolina forward, as far as the North Carolina parallel forward, the record ever was for lowest millibar pressure in the eye of a hurricane was 946. The exact same millibar pressure that we have in Hurricane Sandy at this point. The only difference is when they recorded the 946, it was a Category 3. This one's a Category 1. So the energy, which is what the millibars represent, the energy of the storm is that of a Category 3, Category 4 hurricane. The only thing is, the hurricane itself is very small, but it's wrapped inside of a cyclone, a winter cyclone, which is 1,000 miles wide. 1,000 miles. The tropical wind force that's coming off of her currently right now, while it has 946 millibars, is 1,000 foot long. The diameter is 1,000 feet, so that'll give you an idea that it's going to cover from Maine to Chicago. I mean, it's huge. It's huge. It is huge. And she's beginning to now shift to the northwest and beginning to shift toward the west, and that's when things are going to get intense, because it's going to compress on itself. The hurricane is going to compress onto the winter cyclone, and the rain is going to become more spread out. The winds are going to get more spread out. That energy is going to be dissipated across 1,000 miles, guys. 1,000 miles, Maine to Chicago to North Carolina or Virginia area, northern part of North Carolina. A huge swath of area. Now, 946 millibars. That's the record. If it drops one millibar, it will set an all-time historic record as a Category 1, guys. It didn't even make it to the Category 2 or 3 or 4. Okay, so what's the all-time record for millibar pressure? All-time record in all of recorded history, what's the record? 943. That's the all-time record, and that was a Category 5. So the energy of a Category 5 is basically what's inside of this storm. The energy is just spread out over 1,000 miles. So this is what people are not understanding. The hurricane part of the storm itself, which is just this little bitty part right here where the arrow is when it gets up here, just this little bitty part right there. That's it. That's the only part that's the hurricane. The rest of it that goes all the way up to the North Pole here, right here, all the way down and around to northern or North Carolina and on out into the ocean. All this, guys, the 1,000 miles of storm here, that is all tropical storm force winds, not up here in Canada, guys. But you know what I'm saying? This whole thing right here, that's the winter cyclone side of it. There's two different storms in one. The winter cyclone, which can travel across entire continents without dissipating, without weakening, okay? And then you've got the hurricane. The hurricane, once it hit land, it's going to fade out. But since it's wrapped inside of this winter cyclone, here's what's going to happen. Monday night, okay, in a couple hours this thing's going to shift purely to the west. Okay, right now it's going to the northwest, but it's going to shift purely to the west here within the next couple hours. As it does, the hurricane itself, which is this area right here where the eye is going to press against the winter cyclone part of it, and the rain's going to begin to spread out. Okay, what's going to happen is the actual hurricane part's going to make landfall with 80 mile an hour, basically 75 to 80 mile an hour winds, gusts up to 105. It's going to hit landfall, and then hurricane force winds will remain in effect starting this evening, Monday evening, all the way through Monday night into Tuesday morning, throughout Tuesday as it starts to move this way. There'll still be hurricane force winds all the way through Tuesday into Tuesday night, then moving into Wednesday morning as the low pressure, that's when the hurricane part of the force of the winds will begin to deteriorate. See, it's inside of a system that is capable of moving across an entire continent without deteriorating. So your hurricane force winds are going to come on shore. It's going to be a very narrow band, just the size of the actual hurricane part, which is just this part right here. Just this part right here is the hurricane, and this entire area here is going to have, 75 mile an hour gusts up to 100 as it makes landfall. Okay. In the meanwhile, this area here is all going to be under tropical storm force winds for the next 24 to 40 hours. 24 to 40 hours, depending on your location, is how long of a duration you're going to have to deal with this thing. You're going to have the storm surge come on. Okay, first you got to deal with the astronomically high tide. It's going to make the water about 3 inches higher than any other high tide, normally. So about 2 to 3 inches higher than a normal high tide. Astronomically high tide. And then on top of that, you're going to get in the New York area somewhere between 9 and 12 foot of storm surge. Okay, and then on top of that, they're expecting anywhere from 5 to 17 foot waves. So huge impact right at the wherever the actual hurricane itself is. But the effects of the winter cyclone, which is what's containing the tropical storm force winds, which is anything below 75 mile per hour, is going to cover from Maine to Chicago and all the way down through North Carolina. So I mean, it's huge, guys. It's just amazingly huge. The Great Lakes, Lake Erie, Lake Michigan, Lake Ontario, all these different lakes up here, they're expecting anywhere from 50 to 65 mile per hour winds and upwards of 20 foot waves going on in the Great Lakes from this one system. Plus the snowfall, possible blizzards, again anything above 4,000 feet, 2+ snow, as much as 4 foot of snow. So heads up on that. Lower elevations, a little bit less snow, but it's very wet snow, heavy snow that will attach itself to the leaves that are still on the trees, which means power outages. We already have power outages being reported in several states, all up and down the East Coast already, guys. And the hurricane Hurricane Sandy still is miles and miles and miles off the coast. It's not even started its westward track. It's on its northwest track. It's still got to move to the west. Okay, looking over here on the flight tracker, we can clearly see that there's very little activity going on in the northeast. Very little activity. Way down from 6 hours ago. And by this evening, when the storm is actually off of the coast this afternoon, this evening, Monday evening, on the 29th, this is when you're going to see this map basically go silent in the northeast. No airplane traffic. On the wind map, we can clearly see that this storm has an effect on the entirety of the east coast. The entirety. Okay, granted, there's a breeze down here. We're only dealing with the 8, 9, 10 mile an hour winds, and only a breeze up here. We're only dealing with 12 mile an hour winds. And then you get out into the New York area and you're dealing with what, 36 mile an hour winds or so? 29, 30, that's solid, guys. That's not gusts, that's just what it is continuously at 29 mile per hour right now in New York. That's pretty serious. and then the winds are affected all the way over again to Chicago, and we're expecting 65-mile-an-hour winds throughout the lake. So you can see the scale of this thing, guys, and understand that she is still out in the Atlantic Ocean. She has not made landfall yet. This is a very, very powerful storm encompassing a very large area. 946 millibars is a massive amount of energy, but it's spread out over a huge territory. Again, guys, we have nothing in history that we can compare this storm to. This is a one-of-a-kind mega storm. If you survive this storm, congratulations, you've made it through the first mega storm ever that we know of, at least on this planet. Congratulations if you make it through this. So get ready to bunker down as this evening rolls in and this thing really begins to intensify and to really begin to start its damage. Again, this is a long duration. I can't stress that enough, guys. You're talking anywhere from 24 to 40 hours of wind, rain, storm surges, all sorts of crazy things. The winds shifting from the north to the east to the west to the south as the low pressure moves around in that area. Just get ready, guys. Significant activity getting ready to take place this afternoon. It's going to be some pretty incredible things. But again, guys, this is only the beginning of megastorms. So here's your first one. This is going to give us a precedent idea how they work, how they function. Again, they don't have any idea what exactly is going to take place. I mean, they're totally dependent upon the models to figure out what's going to happen, because this is something we've never seen ever. Our fathers have never seen it. Our forefathers have never seen it. It's just we don't truly know the full potential of what's going to happen here, and that's been the problem the whole time. Is that you have two systems in one system, a hybrid system that's never existed that we know of. So extremely serious situation, guys. Amazing stuff taking place. Power outages are already starting to happen, and we haven't even got into the full extent of this thing yet. That's later tonight. That's still 8-9 hours away, and then it gets serious. So love you guys. Get in the Word, stay in the Word, and get the Word in you. I hope I've covered everything. I'll talk with you guys soon. Oh, the last thing, that when they did that drill was in response. I don't know if I said it in this video or not, but that drill was in response to the 1938 hurricane that paralyzed the East Coast. Absolutely paralyzed the East Coast. It had 993 millibars that paralyzed the East Coast. 993 millibars. This one's got 946, guys. That's way lower, way more powerful, way stronger than that. Okay. The drill that they did was based on the 1938 hurricane. Okay, that's the drill that FEMA and the government did. That was that they named Hurricane Sandy and all that. It's all based on the 1937 hurricane that hit. All of it, 1938 hurricane. Okay, that had 993 millibars, and it absolutely, completely, utterly paralyzed the Northeast, and that's why they had that drill. And so they got an idea what to do here, but they have never drilled or practiced for anything of this scale ever, guys. They don't know exactly what to do either. This is far bigger than anything that they've ever practiced for. Way, exceedingly far beyond anything they've ever practiced for. And we're talking up to upwards of 50 to 60 million people without power. I mean, that's the possibility here. I expect it to be around, 5 to probably 15 million people are going to be without power. That's just my prediction here, my guess. But it could be far more than that. It could be far less, just a guess. But anyways, guys, get in the Word, stay in the Word, and get the Word in you. Heads up, big time. Today's the day. Starting today, everything begins to deteriorate, completely deteriorate. We get landfall tonight, then it goes through all day tomorrow, and then into Wednesday, and then it begins to head out of here into Canada, and then Canada gets to deal with it for a while before it completely moves out. So heads up, guys. Love you guys. Get in the Word, stay in the Word. Remember, there's things going on the West Coast. We got flooding in Seattle. As you can see, this low pressure moving in here, and there is flooding going on, not in Seattle, but in Washington. A pretty large system, and that's going to work its way probably to the northeast going through Canada. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it and see exactly what it does. But I do believe that it will be, the tail of it at least, will be traveling through the United States and probably bringing in severe weather or winter weather or whatever it's going to do. So heads up on that. I don't know what else to tell you guys except that down there in Louisiana, the geologist came forward and said, look, man, I made a mistake. I was wrong. There's exceedingly more pressure than I've ever imagined down there. Also, we're now starting to see methane fires popping up all throughout the state of Louisiana. Just incredible things going on down there in Louisiana. So let's not forget about what's going on in Louisiana either, guys. Prayers to the northeast, prayers to the south, and prayers to the northwest up there as they're getting flooded out as well. I'll talk with you guys soon. Get in the Word, stay in the Word, and get the Word in you. Shalom to all.